everyday witches emerge from the shadows of secrecy. Broom closets are flinging open and witches are taking flight. Whether you are hiding in your cozy closet or flying with pride, stay for a spell as witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon and her guests share magical moments, stir the cauldron, and debunk misinformation and misconceptions about paganism, witches, and our wonderful world of magic.
We are back again with a special guest, Anna Schmidt, who has been on the show before. Anna is a paranormal specialist, and she aired on November 12th, which was episode 85. Welcome, Anna.
Hello, it's lovely to be back again.
So last time you told us what a paranormal specialist is and some of the things you do. So if anybody out there has not heard that episode, they can go back and listen. But today it's going to be extra special because we're going to talk about
paranormal addiction.
Paranormal addiction. What is that?
This is interesting. I think I'm probably the only person who's coined this terminology. Paranormal addiction, from an energetic perspective, is people who are totally addicted to going on paranormal investigations, watching paranormal movies, reading the books, having the experiences, they have the equipment, and sometimes they can attract paranormal beings into their homes, which takes the addiction to a new level. Now, I can talk about paranormal addiction from a personal perspective, and I share this all the time. I mean, the work I do as a paranormal specialist, I am connecting to, tuning into, sensing, feeling, hearing, seeing paranormal beings of all different levels, whether they be spirit, dark or demonic beings, or curse beings, which I've had to deal with recently. They're the tricksters. They're a new level of paranormal energy that I'm learning about. So I work with these beings every single day. Like I said, I sense them, I feel them within people, within their homes, because I'm professionally employed to clear people and their homes, sometimes cars, caravans, pets, and so forth. Anything that is energy can attract negative energy if there have been experiences or traumas or things that are going on. So if you want to listen to me talk about all that, you can go back to episode 85. But paranormal addiction it can take over people's lives. It is a new level of understanding when it comes to the paranormal.
Which is very classic of any addiction.
Oh, absolutely. Now, people with paranormal addictions find that they have trouble living normal lives. I mean, they have families, they go to work, they get on the bus, they get on the train, they have social lives. But always in the background is that wanting, that knowing, that fascination, that obsession to know more about the unseen world around us. Now, I've coined 4 different levels of paranormal addiction. So the first level is what I call curiosity. Now, this is where the majority of the public fall into it. They want to know, when I die, where do I go? What's going to happen? Will I be a spirit? Will I be an angel? All that sort of thing. Will I see dad or mum or grandma? That's quite normal. Most people have that curiosity, and it'll come and go in their lives depending on what happens in their lives, whether they have deaths in the family or they're on a spiritual journey and all of a sudden they're connecting with their spirit guides and they've just got so many questions. Now, that's kind of the safe level to be at. Most people have that curiosity. Now, the second level is what I call fascination, which is you're sort of ramping it up a bit. You're not just curious, you go researching. You start doing paranormal investigations. You might have activity happening in your home, or a friend might have activity happening in the home, and you just want to explore, you want to know more. Now, that's okay, but we've always got to remember, like attracts like. If you put out that vibration that you want to connect with spirits, dark or demonic beings, we're going to talk about them when we get to level 4. When you put out that vibe, they will answer. Now, the safest level of paranormal addiction is obviously working with spirits. Spirits are people's soul energy that has left their physical bodies. Now, that soul energy, if those beings aren't ready to transition into the afterlife, if they've still got attachments to the earth, they've got messages for friends and family, they want to protect their family, they just want to still be here. They will be here and they will roam the earth. They may also be in workplaces or places where they lived for long periods of time, whether they were their homes or whether they lived in mental health institutions or whether they spent a lot of time in jail. Sometimes when people pass, they go back to those places because that is the only energy they know. Now, with the level 2, which is the fascination, quite often it takes people down the darker path. They want to experience connecting to a dark being or a demonic level being. And when they get that experience, they might get pushes, punches, shoves, pokes, electric shocks, or even scratches. That'll tend to frighten off a lot of people and they'll back away. We're talking the majority of the public here. That frightens a lot of people because we want those interactions, so these beings will deliver the signs and symptoms that we want to experience. If you've been told that demonic beings will scratch you and bruise you and poke you, that's exactly what they're going to do. Now, most people, when they meet me, they go, well, you just look normal. You just look like my mum. And I'm like, well, I'm just a normal person. I deal with these beings all the time, but I have very healthy respect for them. And yes, I do get the odd shove or push or poke in bed when I'm about to start a house clearing job for someone because they're a bit disgruntled. They don't want to leave the house. They don't want to leave the person. I just talk to them and explain to them that they just go back out into the human environment and they just go somewhere else. There's no harm that comes to them. So that has kept me at a safe level of working with these beings. You have that respect. So the fascination leads people into starting to binge watch the movies, reading the books, talking about the paranormal all the time. Now, I'll give a little story here if that's okay.
Of course.
I always give real life experiences because people can relate to them. Now, I knew a husband and wife that lived here, and the wife always complained about paranormal beings in the home. And in those days, because they were local people, I just got in the car and drove for a couple of hours and went for a visit. Now, when I got there, I could feel them. And I'm like, yep, I know you're here. I haven't been employed to do a house clearing, so there's no need to get your knickers in a twist. You just go about your business. But the wife, she had all this paranormal equipment out. She had the K2s and the ghost meters, and she had a REM pod. She wanted interaction with these beings. So they were giving her exactly what she wanted. The husband didn't like it. The 2 toddlers didn't like it because they couldn't sleep. They were affected, their sleep was affected overnight. Because if you think about it, when there's denser energy around you, like if you walk into a room where there's been an argument or a death or a suicide or there's been fighting, it feels weird, it feels a bit odd or a bit strange, and your body is sort of repulsed or repelled by that energy because we live in a higher vibration. When your body and your energy is around the dark and the demonic beings, they're just naturally a denser energy. So it's like trying to walk through a thick fog. It can be quite disruptive. I've had that experience in supermarkets quite often. You walk through a space where someone has left a pool of some experience that has upset them, or they've been standing near the coffee ruminating about how much they hate their husband, and they've left this pool of hatred, and these beings will gravitate towards that and just feed off the energy. And sensitive people can walk through that and go, oh, I feel weird. Oh, no, I feel better again. That's your body sending out warning signs. Don't stand there. because there's a pool of hatred. There's also the paranormal beings. In this home, because of what the wife was creating with her paranormal fascination with the equipment, I want to experience it. They were experiencing it. They were experiencing it day and night. There was no let up. These beings don't sleep. You can't say to them, oh, come at 3 p.m. for half an hour. They're like, nah, we'll just turn up when we want to, because you've asked them to come to your home. So that's exactly what they're going to do. They don't abide by our rules. We do not control them. Anyone who thinks they can control dark and demonic beings is in for a real shock. And this is part of my journey to learn and then to educate the public about what I experienced dealing with these beings. So if we look forward to level 3, now I kind of sit at level 3 because I do the work. I have to deal with them coming into my home, following me around in public. I see, I hear, I feel, I sense all the time. They've learned to stay out of my bedroom because I've set up this very firm bedroom boundary. I only sleep about 5 hours a night, which is it's fine. That's just all I need. But they're in. As soon as my brain is conscious, as soon as my brain switches on after the dream state, in they come because they want me to start the day's work or they want to see what I'm up to. So I've created this scenario through my paranormal addiction, but also through the work I do to help clear them from people's homes and people themselves. They're curious. Quite often, dark and demonic beings will come and observe me at home before I start a job. They're not always offensive and pushy, and what you see in the movies is a whole heap of rubbish. They are energy beings and they're doing a job. They've been assigned a job. We actually assign them jobs by telling them we want them to be a certain way, and they're like, all right, then we'll just do what you want, and then we'll feed off what you create.
Have you been wanting to ride your broom like you stole it, rather than hiding in the shadows? Theodora Pendragon is here to help your magic shine, whether you want to show the world your subtle sparkle, or you really want to light your fire. Visit Theodora's online store at witchcasting.shop. That's witchcasting.shop. Remember, there's never been a better time to be a witch.
So back to the family. When the family separated, which wasn't caused by any paranormal issues, it was caused by other relationship problems. When the wife left, the husband actually said to me, the energy of the home totally changed. It went back to normal. There was no lights flickering. His sleep improved. The children spent time between the two parents, which is normal with a separation. But he said he missed his wife, but he was loving the fact that he could think without brain fog. He could move around the house without feeling uncomfortable. So these beings would have followed her because of her paranormal addiction. They'll just follow her wherever she goes until she changes her thinking patterns, her thoughts, her words, her actions and her reactions, I always say. So paranormal addicts can move away from paranormal addiction, but it's like any other addiction. There's always temptation around us, and it takes a lot of stamina, a lot of determination, a lot of focus on wanting change. A lot of them don't want change. I don't want change because I love it. So therefore, I have to deal with the downside of it as well. It's like anything else we have in our life. So level 3, like I started to mention, is the obsession. Now, this can lead into, now it kind of crosses into mental health issues. I generally don't comment on this because I'm not a qualified doctor. I'm not a qualified mental health professional. But I can talk about it from an energetic perspective, is that when they get into level 3, they start developing mental health type behaviours, manic behaviours, paranoid behaviours. They might start hearing voices, which they're probably hearing, or they might not be hearing. So I can't comment on that. But I can look at it from that energy perspective, like I said. They may be hearing energy beings telling them to do certain things. Now, because they've instigated this obsession and they just want to experience it. I was on a ghost tour one night. I'm going to flip into a story. I used to work as a paranormal tour guide with another lady here in Tasmania. And I was on tours quite often, and people would say at the site we were at, they would say, "Any demons here? Please come and possess me now." And I'd be looking at these people and I'm like, seriously? I didn't say anything because I was employed as a tour guide. It wasn't my place to educate or say anything to the public. I just support them the best way that I could. So I just looked at this guy and I'm like, you're putting that vibe out there that you want to experience possession. Now, possession is something else we can talk about in another episode because there's a whole heap of information about that. It's all different levels to it. It's not what you see in the movies. People live quite normal lives to a degree when they've got demonic level beings manipulating within their energy field. Now, I don't know what happened to that man, but he put that vibe out there, and if something followed him home from the site or from somewhere else in the environment, because when you're pumping out a vibration out of your energy field, these beings will come because that is what they do. It's their job to give us what we want. It is seriously that simple. So that to me is an obsession. Like, he wants to experience possession. He wants to experience that demonic feeling or whatever he thinks he's going to get out of it. But I have to tell you, it's not what you think it is. It is not fun. It is not, oh yeah, I'll just experience this, they'll go away. Once they're there, they'll stay. And then you have to find someone like myself to tune in, remove them from the person. Demonic beings travel from the client to the energy clearer. And I will argue that until I'm blue in the face with any energy clearer that wants to say, oh, love and light will protect me. That is a whole heap of rubbish because these beings are interested in our emotional imprints. So I've talked about before, I don't know whether I mentioned it on your episode or on my podcast, I talk about resentment. I create resentment. That is my emotional trigger. I get annoyed with people. I've learnt not to do it, about 80%. I'm not quite there yet. But if I create too much resentment around a situation or a person and I ruminate about it, I'm pumping out that resentment vibe, I then attract the beings that like resentment. And they're just going to feed off it until I do my detective work that I do through my personal clearing, my house clearing, and I go, okay, I'm going to wear that. I created the resentment. How many episodes? Oh my God, there's 4,000 episodes of resentment in my, say, energy field. And when did I create that? Oh, okay, 4 weeks ago. Oh, I know what triggered that. So I've learned now to go, okay, that person triggers me or that type of situation triggers me. Don't create resentment. And then these beings don't come. And this level 3 fascination can just flip people's lives upside down. I've had a lot of clients that I have done house clearings for worldwide. So I've worked in Austria, I've worked in Germany, I've worked in Japan, UK. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. All you need is permission to do the work. Really important to be ethical. These beings like ethics. If I've been professionally employed to clear a person or a place, then they have to concede that they need to move out. If I tune into a place and go get all ego and go, oh yeah, I'm some cool paranormal clearing specialist, I'm just going to do this house because I want to, you're going to end up with a backlash because that is what they do. You've upset them. You haven't followed some universal law of you need permission to ethically do the work. So when people get into the level 3 obsession, they start experiencing dreams, like nightmarish type dreams, night terrors, they sweat, they're manic, their behaviours, they might lock themselves away from their family. They might totally isolate themselves in the environment. Their workmates, they might go to work and the workmates are like, there's something not right about you. Other people's bodies will feel the difference in someone because you're not aware of what it is or you don't want to think about it because it's frightening for a lot of people, and I get that. You're just like, I just need to stay away from that person. Or you might suggest they see a mental health professional or go and see their doctor. There might be something wrong with them. Now, those 2 levels of diagnosis can help to some degree. But I always say to people, dealing with paranormal beings, it's medical, mental health, then the energetic clearing, because that's a holistic approach to helping the person, to helping their energy. So at level 3, people tend to find that, excuse me, when I talk about the paranormal, I get a cough because they're listening. It's quite funny. It's one of the ways that my body responds to them being in the environment. Like, they're not going to come through this episode to people. It's not what they do. Because remember, I'm the addict. I'm talking about them and I'm pumping out that vibe that I work with their energy, I understand them and so forth. So they're going to be here with me. So I don't want anyone to be frightened by listening to this. It's purely an educational thing that I like to share, is just be aware that if you're going through something and it's not medical and it's not mental health, look at other aspects of your life that may be affecting you. Now, level 3 people, which is where quite often people get to that level, is that they start taking recreational drugs because they want to enhance the experience even more. Now, I worked with a young man recently who made a contract with the devil because he was in that level 2, level 3, kind of in between. Like, he was having a hard time in his life. He was about 12, 13 years old, trying to fit in, didn't have any friends. And someone suggested to him, you should try using paranormal energy to get you what you want in your life. And at that age, you know what teenagers are like. They think they're indestructible and they can experience anything without it affecting them. Well, he made a contract with the devil, not just once, like 5 times. So because he thought it didn't work. So he kept repeating the process, which I'm not going to share. So he attracted these 5 beings that then ensued him for the next 7 years. So he's about 19 now. Now, he found that he was so obsessed with the paranormal that he had a tattoo made in hell put on his arm, and he had all these little devils put around it. He was taking drugs constantly, all sorts of drugs. I can't even remember the names because that's not my thing. But he wanted change. There was also within him that piece of his soul energy, that piece of his thinking and his mind and his soul said, right, this isn't for you, mate. You need to get out of this. But every time he tried to get out of it, he got pulled back into the drugs and the obsession and the marijuana and all the really heavy drugs, because that's what he created with these beings, is that he wanted their help. So when you attract them with this obsession, you might think that you're attracting them because you want fame, you want recognition, you want to be seen, you want people to, you want thousands of people to subscribe to your podcast or your YouTube channel or buy your music. But you can't control these beings. You can imagine they want their doorway in, and then they will manipulate you. So he had some deep trauma issues as part of his upbringing. And so they latched onto that. And every time he tried to get away from it, they would then pull him back into this way of thinking that he was worthless, he was unworthy, and then he needed them there, and then he'd do the drugs to enhance it. It became a really vicious cycle until his girlfriend pointed him towards me. And we had a conversation. He was a nice young man. Like, seriously, there was a level of wisdom within him. He was like, I need to get out of this. I need to be able to move away from this. I need to be able to educate people. I need to do some sort of, I want to get a job. I want to, maybe be a social worker and talk to people who have addictions. So he has started to move away from that. I did the clearing for him. There were 5 demonic level beings there because he'd invoked them. He'd asked them into his life. So he was at that level 3 of obsession. So let's flip into level 4. Now, I've had to deal with this recently. I don't do black magic. I'm not into any sort of occult or any sort of satanic practices. I work with these beings, as in I clear them from people's homes, but I don't go looking for them. When you go looking for them, that's a different approach, and you're going to attract a different type of energy being. Now, when you go to level 4, it's because the obsession is just not giving it to you. You're not getting the level of interaction with them. You're not satisfied with the fact that they're around you. You start wondering, what else is there out there? What else is there out there? You may join groups with other people who are into occult practices in a negative way. And you might start invoking with them these beings to a new level. Now, that can be for yourself, or sometimes even people start using this level of paranormal addiction to harm others. Now, I had to deal with this recently, is that a woman, who I won't name for obvious reasons, is very unhappy in her life. She is so addicted to the paranormal and getting power through the paranormal that she lost her job. She lost all her friends. She's now with her family. Of course, they're supporting her in the best way they can. But the only way she has control in her life, she thinks, is to send out demonic beings to hurt people through using black magic. Now, she does it every month on the full moon, but she doesn't realise that what she is sending out is going to come back to her tenfold. Now, for her to step away from these practices, she would need to, first of all, identify and acknowledge that she has a paranormal addiction. Now, that can be hard for people because they then have to work on themselves. They then have to see their doctor, have to see a mental health professional. It can be embarrassing to acknowledge that you have this level of addiction that you cannot control. Now, medication, remember, I'm not a medical professional, but I'm just commenting here. Medication would assist with changing the thought patterns, changing the way the brain works, may help her move on with her life, but the addiction is always going to be there. It kind of goes around in the background. It kind of circles in the background. She would actually have to consciously want change. So she would then have to look at ditching all her paranormal behaviours, because as soon as she gets rid of all her black magic paraphernalia, all her tools, maybe books, whatever she has in her home that is connected to satanic practices, she would need to get rid of that out of the house. She would need to state to the universe, to the demonic beings, that I am now moving away from this. She would need to see an energy clearer. It's a lot of work to undo this level of paranormal addiction. But she would seriously be experiencing some really tremendous, really horrific sleep issues, personal issues. Her body would not be coping with the level of paranormal beings that are around her all the time. Her home would be infected. Now, I'm going to use that word. She is infected. Her home is infected. Her children would be feeling this energy that mummy is pumping out. The partner would be feeling it. The bed. Beds, I find, really absorb a lot of energy. The bed would really be infected with her level of paranormal addiction. So that lady isn't helpable until she is ready to step up and want change.
Some people enjoy their addictions. What advice would you give them about their addiction, or would you just leave them alone to enjoy their obsession that started from curiosity and now is a full-blown addiction?
Yeah. That's a very personal choice. But when it comes to harming others, harming yourself and others around you, that is when they need help. Because, demonic beings travel in cars with people. There can be all sorts of issues that can happen on the road. There can be issues that happen in the home. There can be all sorts of traumas and relationship issues that come from the person who has these paranormal being within them, like they're there within them all the time. Now, I can talk about this. I'm going to share this other little story. This is very recent, like within the last month. This particular lady is local. This is the one that I've just mentioned. Every full moon, she sends out the demons to hurt people. Now, she doesn't like me because one of her long-term friends needed to move away from her. All her other friends were going, why are you hanging around with her? You're changing when you are with her. You're becoming negative. You're becoming nasty. It's like you're adopting her behaviours. So this lady found me at a market. It was almost like the universe put us together. And she bought a copy of my book called The Darkness Around Us, which is sort of like a handbook to help people understand who these beings are, why they're here, some of the signs and symptoms, how they attach to people, that sort of information. So she bought my book, we had a conversation, then she messages me and she's like, I need to get away from this woman. She's ruining my life. I can't move away from her. So long story short, this lady made a stand and she left her friend with the level 4 paranormal addiction. She decided she wasn't going to see her in the physical. She blocked her on all social media, blocked her on email, blocked her through her phone, through text messages. She cut her out of her life physically in the earth reality. But now energetically, this lady has connections. And every month on the full moon, she thinks she can send these demons out to hurt her friend and to hurt myself because I changed the status quo in her life. But all I did was help her friend who acknowledged that she needed to move away from this lady because her behaviours were going downhill, her family were noticing it and so forth. So she made the conscious choice to move away from her friend. Now, what her friend does, she doesn't just send you out a spell or some sort of post-hypnotic suggestion to hurt or to maybe cause disruption in your life. She sends the paranormal beings with it. So for the last month, since Halloween, I only literally removed these beings today. It's interesting. They've been with me for a month. So if I can describe someone sending you a curse, so we called it a curse. It could have been a curse, a spell, a hex, a jinx, a post-hypnotic suggestion. I'm learning about this stuff at the moment. It is a totally new area for me. But I have to learn how to counteract it because it hurts and harms others. So I've learnt from this that this woman cast a spell. Now, people are thinking, oh, you should be able to protect yourself. To a degree, I have learnt that there are protection methods that you can use. You live a healthy life, you look after your body, you have the cleanest mental health that you can have, you look after your physical body, look after your emotional self. You can put the bubble around yourself, you can call your archangels and your guides in to support you. But the darkness really does have power. And people go, there is power in the Christ energy, and yes, there is. But I haven't fully worked out how to protect myself or others from the dark realm. Like it is seriously. Now, these beings, this is quite. You can see my excitement talking about this. These beings that she sent through a curse. Now, they aren't dark beings. They are what we call magic beings. I haven't coined a phrase for it yet because it's so new. But when I talk to these energy beings, because what she'd done, this woman had sent this curse to me. I'd had my protection up, but somehow they'd got in. And what I noticed was I felt like I wasn't in my body. I felt like I had brain fog. You know when you're getting a flu and you feel a bit strange, you feel a bit different. Now, I've had that for a whole month. And I keep asking the questions, do I have paranormal beings here? Yes. How many? 6. Okay. Are they attached to any of my emotional imprints? And I go through all my usual process. They'd go, but then they'd be back again. And they'd go and they'd be back again. And I just kept at the process. Today, I took another approach and I asked them, are you connected to this particular woman? Because it's hard to know who sends you these things. I mean, I don't understand this black magic process. But anyway, these beings were connected to this local woman. So I managed to clear and remove the curse energy from my energy field, which then freed them to then go back to her because they don't want to go out into the environment. So normally dark and demonic beings that are coming to feed off emotional imprints, you remove the imprints from the person, from the home, off they go again. They just go and look for another food source. These are different. So I'm learning a lot about level 4 paranormal obsession from this particular local lady. She's rather interesting. She doesn't know that I know what she's getting up to, if that makes sense, because it's fascinating. This work is fascinating. I don't particularly like the dark or the black magic side of it because it's a whole other knowledge realm. It's a whole other realm of knowledge that you need to go into. But these beings left because I identified the cause of why they were here, and they simply went back. They were returned to sender. So that's what sort of things that you can get involved in with level 4 paranormal addiction. So they've gone back to her. Who knows what karmic issues she is invoking within herself by doing this sort of behaviour. So to answer your question, you can't change people's behaviours. They actually have to want to change.
You enjoy your addiction, and you've made it your profession.
Absolutely. I don't think I could do anything else now. I did work in mainstream work. I have had a family. I have had children. They kind of acknowledge what I do, but they don't really because I don't think they really want to. It's not in their interest. So they haven't got an interest in the paranormal, so they just leave me to it. But I don't think that I can do anything else now. I'm 55, and I think I will do paranormal home clearing, businesses, properties, people's pets, cars, caravans, and so forth until the day I die, because it is ingrained into me to... I enjoy it. I just heard in my head, you enjoy it, don't you? And I went, yeah, I do. I love it. But I have to also deal with the downside, which is the curse beings or the curse demons, whatever you want to call them, people sending out that level of energy. I've got to learn to deal with that because I'm an energy worker and sometimes we come across this type of behaviour.
Anna, thank you again for being on the show and telling us this time about paranormal addictions. We now know that that's a thing.
It is a thing, and it's very real. It is very, very real. I see it in my clients. And when the energy is cleared from them, when that dense layer of energy is removed, they feel like themselves again. So I see the results of doing the energy work. So you can't see it. It's not tangible as a thing, but the energy world is around us all the time. These paranormal beings are around us all the time. So if you're educated and aware of them, you can make positive choices in your life to avoid interactions with them.
Thank you again, Anna, for being on the show.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for Witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon. Have a burning question or have a topic you'd love Theodora and her guests to discuss on the show? Contact her through Instagram at Theodora Pendragon. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And help us spread the word by leaving us a rating and review and sharing it with your friends. See you next time, and may your magic always shine.